Hello and welcome to the Women on the Wall radio show. We are excited to be with you in studio live in Arlington, Texas at the Lone Star Tea Party Studios. And I've got on the line with me my co-host, President of Women on the Wall, Rebecca Forrest. How are you doing, Rebecca?
I'm good. I was actually going to try something a little new today. We were going to try to Skype me in to see if that worked, and then we had a little bit of technical difficulty, so I'm just on the phone with you today, but hopefully I'll be back up there soon, and we'll have another session in the studio together.
Great. Well, and we've got a special guest calling in today. She's a Texas mom whose YouTube video is going viral now, where Mary Jane Smitherman was testifying in front of the State Board of Education meeting on APUSH, the new AP U.S. History framework and exam that is coming into Texas schools this September. And so we have Mary Jane Smitherman that's calling in on the line. So Rebecca, it's going to be a show filled with information that is important and imperative for Texas parents who need to know what is going to be coming into their children's schools. So, we've got them both on the line. All right, well, let's start. We've got 3 ads. We're going to start advertising on the Women on the Wall radio show. And if you'd like for your ad to be included in our show, just contact me, Alice, at womenonthewall.org, and we'll do an ad for you. But we're going to start out with this year's Can I See the Solution Conference was a dynamic, and we have it all on video for you. Discover how the federal government is taking over our children's education, and then be a part of the solution. Start now by ordering your own copy of The Solution. The complete series gives you all the information you need, so join the movement by clicking on the image to get your own copy of the Solution Conference. The Sons of Liberty Riders are hosting their annual Let's Roll 9/11 Memorial Ride. Iraq War Bronze Star Medal winner Tony Tinderholt will be the guest speaker to honor those whose lives were taken that September day. For more information how you can be a part of this, just click the image on the screen. Our promise is we will never forget. Join the movement and stand with Women on the Wall to protect our children's education from the federal government takeover. Every Wednesday night, join the call with hundreds of concerned parents and teachers to take back our children's education. Women on the Wall conference call. It's free, so go to womenonthewall.org to sign up today. All right, we've got our ads up, and we are ready to rock and roll here in studio in Arlington, Texas. And we've got just 2 wonderful women that I adore, Rebecca Forrest, President of Women on the Wall, and Mary Jane Smitherman, a Texas mom who we have come to know and love. And because you stand, Mary Jane, you are willing to do the hard work that it takes to be a great mom and get your children educated so that they have an education of opportunity to succeed in America. How are you doing, Mary Jane?
I'm great. Alice, how are y'all?
We are doing very well, very well. I have to tell you, and I haven't even talked to you about it, but we put the audio of your testimony in front of the State Board of Education up, and we put it out yesterday, and it is taking off like wildfire. Moms and dads are very concerned about this APUSH, the new AP U.S. History framework and curriculum. And what you did, no one else had done. You did a side-by-side comparison of the former 2010 AP History framework that teachers are used to and have been using, and put it side by side with this new APUSH framework. Tell us a little bit about what you found when you did that side by side comparison.
Well, the first thing that I found was that the new standards are much longer. Just by pages, I think it's about 80 pages longer. And the second thing was that the new standards do not follow a more direct chronological history. And I thought it was interesting that, like, what happened, the French Revolution is actually listed twice in the new standards. So, the French got their idea for the revolution from us, and theirs happened much later in the 1700s than ours did. And so it was very confusing. I think it's important for our teachers, to help our teachers, is to have a very easy to follow chronological outline. And I mean, I'm sure that they know this, but if this got into the hands of students, it is over 100 pages long, it would be very confusing. Or if a teacher just copied this and handed it out, a student would not have the correct context in which to put it into. So a lot of the things also, the themes were different, and you'll have to forgive me because I don't have my paperwork in front of me, but I remember that the 2014 themes, there was like 7 themes, whereas in the older curriculum, the 2010, there were maybe 13 or 14 themes. And one of the themes in the new curriculum is peopling, which I think is really strange. Peopling, I don't know what peopling means. But in the older one, the 2010, it follows just, and again, please forgive me because I don't have everything with me right now, but so that was a difference. Also, the older curriculum actually talked about American exceptionalism, which was nowhere to be found in the 2014. So,
that's not surprising.
Yeah, and then I also looked at, so when I testified, and I guess you saw it on my testimony, I actually copied the index from the 2014 curriculum so that the state board members could actually, while I was speaking about this, could actually go for themselves and look in the back of the index to see, oh my gosh, no, there is no reference to Dr. Martin Luther King. No, there is no reference to affirmative action. No, there is no reference to the Holocaust, to Hitler. There's no reference to our founding fathers. There's no reference to the Gettysburg Address. No, there's, all these different categories. There's no reference to the Navajo Code Talker. So, so don't take my word for it. Go directly to the document. And when I was doing the side-by-side comparison, of course, I did have both curriculum, and I did print them both off and had them bound, and so I could show the state board members, hey, this is what I had, this is what I read, this is what I compare. So, kind of in a nutshell, and one of the most important things that I found is if you go to the State Board of Education website, you will see that they have specific standards for curriculum in Texas, which cannot be anti-American. That is, it has to show America in a good light, and it has to show things about free enterprise system and the republic, all these different categories, which was nowhere to be found in the new AP US history curriculum.
Well, and Mary Jane, one of the things that, another thing that you referenced in your testimony that I think is very disturbing is that we are losing our good veteran teachers who know how to teach AP history. And we've got new teachers coming in who are being handed this framework, and they don't know how to teach it, and so they're going to go by the framework, and we have good, solid veteran teachers who are leaving, and you're experiencing that yourself in your own school district. Is that correct?
Yes, we are. We have had teachers that left in May, and it will be, interesting to see, since I'll have my fourth child of 4 children will be taking this class in the fall to see what has happened, what's going to go on.
And do you know who the new AP US History is going to be and where they stand on this new framework?
No.
That's one of the things that we're giving folks the call to action to do, is to call up to your school and find out who is the teacher and talk to the teacher. For instance, I called our local school district, and I know that the AP US History teacher is someone that I know personally knows how to teach this class and will, no matter what, include our Texas standards and our Texas TEKS in it. It's interesting.
Right.
DISD, which is right next to us in Denton, I happened to meet the AP US History teacher, who is a young teacher, and she loves this new framework. So as a parent, I think that we've got to look at who the actual teacher is in the classroom and make those decisions of what we're going to do. One of the other calls to action we talked about on our Wednesday night conference call last night is the amount of money. It was interesting, and I know, Mary Jane, you were there, when State Board of Education Ken Mercer asked Deborah Pennington, the College Board Senior Curriculum Manager, if they could just push back this push for a year so it can be reviewed and rolled out properly. And she said, oh, no. Districts have already spent money on the instructional materials. The training has already happened. It's too late. You don't have a say in this, basically. Well, do you remember her saying that? I was floored.
Yeah. Yeah.
What we need to do as parents, as grandparents, as taxpayers is do a public information request of our school district and find out exactly how much money was spent on the APUSH curriculum, from instructional materials to the training of the teachers. And not just did they go to a workshop or a training, what was the cost to the district for that teacher, money that was paid to the teacher to take this training, and how much money was given to the College Board. And you made that clear distinction in your testimony, because your children have taken over 41 AP classes over the years. You are not only concerned as a parent and what's in this curriculum, but as a consumer, because you have a vested financial interest in this. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I am a consumer, a customer. My kids are customers too.
Right.
Yeah. So one thing I did go talk, to Miss Pennington afterwards, and I asked her. I showed her the index, and I asked her why was gender mentioned 11 times in the index, but there's no reference to Dr. Martin Luther King. And she told me because gender lasts forever.
What?
Yes. Because
Wow.
I don't know if you remember in my testimony, but the first question that I got was from one of the state board members who asked me if I had talked to the college board about them. And I had not, and so after all the testimony was finished, I did go over and talk to Ms. Pennington about my concerns about these important parts of history that were lacking.
Wow.
Also, here's another thing I'm concerned, because when she talked about how the AP test is graded, that if the student can reference a document which supports their position, the child will get a high score, will get a 5.
Wow.
They're limiting the answers by limiting the course content. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And one of the questions that was brought up was that the American Revolution was started by wealthy citizens to protect their wealth. So if you're not giving students access to those documents, if you don't tell them about the men that signed the Declaration of Independence and how they put their lives and their property and the lives of their family online, and you're getting a distorted view of how our nation began.
Well, and this is exactly what the Common Core philosophy of education is. It's relativism. It's collectivist viewpoint. And so there are no right and wrong answers. As long as you can support your belief in a debate, you're educated. Well, that's a very dangerous path that we're heading down with our children. And Mary Jane, are you finding in your local community, or now that you've kind of put yourself out there and in talking to people, that there are other parents who are just as concerned as we are?
I actually have talked about it with one or two people who have children that I know for sure will be going into the same class, and they don't know anything about it, and they're very surprised at what I tell them.
Right.
Because, Alice and Rebecca, you and I know that as parents, we have this implicit trust, implied trust with our school district and our teachers, and we think that we don't even think about someone would be trying to, make money or anything like that.
Right.
Our mind is the way that, we went to school, and of course everybody has the best interest of my child. And of course, history is going to be taught in an objective manner. Another thing that really concerned me when I read that new curriculum is that, when they talk about dropping the atomic bomb in World War II, they don't mention anything about the atrocities that were committed in World War II, as well as the extermination of the Jews, the handicapped, all the people that died. And so if you don't talk about that, then a student might be led to think, well, why did America do that? Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Yes. Yes. Did they take out the bombing in Hiroshima? Did they remove that?
Well, they talk about that, but they don't talk about the blitzkrieg. They don't talk about anything else that was going on in Europe.
Right.
And so it's a very distorted view, and I think it's very important that our students know that Hitler came to power in 1933. That World War II did not start until 1939. For 6 years, he spread his propaganda for 6 years.
Right.
So, against the Jewish people. And so it didn't just happen overnight.
Right.
We need to teach our students that.
Right. And, of course, they're just trying to tell them the other side, what we did, not why we did it. And the result of that is, and it's interesting that you said that, because the result of that is that right now, like in the instance of what's going on over in the Middle East with ISA, seeing what they're doing, if you don't understand where that kind of stuff leads, if you don't have that history to understand where that leads, then, it continues. So they're, we know they're just dumbing the children down so they will just follow and not think and understand. Right.
Well,
if a child only gets one side of the story, does not receive the whole, everything was going on, then they're not informed.
Right. Right.
And I don't know if it was Alice, I know someone talked about that day that it promotes this cynical view of America. That's not true.
Yes, what it, yeah.
That's not true.
Well, and it was interesting, and when Deborah Pennington made that comment about how, the different viewpoints have to be brought in, and she said her favorite social studies mentor said this can't be a story told about dead white men told by almost dead white men, that there were other people there, and their view needs to be put forward.
Right.
I think that one of the things that is so interesting about that hearing or about that meeting is, one, you showed up. We had people show up. We had you, Mary, Janine McGregor, Mary Bowen. There was a Dwayne Stovall. We had like 15 people show up and testify against this. And when you listen to Deborah Pennington's testimony, it is clear to me that this college board is right on board in her answers with David Coleman, who is the mastermind of the Common Core. Do you believe that this is the Common Core philosophy of education, Mary Jane?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Well, we are going to continue to stay in the battle, Mary Jane, and we just thank you so much for the work that both you and Barry have done and are willing to do to be out in front and speak truth to power. Because what we know is that our children are watching. Our children are watching, and you guys have got 4 wonderful children who are learning by you standing up. And we just want to say thank you so much for your time and for being in the battle with us and all that you are both doing.
Oh, definitely. Well, at the end of the day, these standards are going to all of our states. They're hitting the whole United States of America. Every child who's a junior is going to be taking this class. And so, our focus is the United States of America, and of course this doesn't even begin to meet our own standards. But I'm worried about the child that is in South Dakota who's getting this, and that's my concern. Is really all the high school juniors this year. It's really a big concern. So.
Well, and that's what we say. We can protect our own children. We can do everything we can to educate them. But if their generation is completely indoctrinated with this, their future as American citizens is gone. And we will be the first generation of Americans to give our children a future that's not as bright as the one that we had. That's a pretty daunting thing, and it's something that I know the 3 of us are not going to go away. We're going to continue the battle. So Mary Jane, thank you so much for all that you're doing. And
thank you to y'all too. Thank you to both of you guys too. Y'all really always been out there in the front too. So you are fearless leaders.
Well, thank you. Well, Rebecca, it's interesting when you look at what's happening across our state of Texas and our local school districts, but Mary Jane made a great point. It's all 50 states that in September, this APUSH U.S. History framework will be hitting all classrooms. And it's not just the public schools, because a lot of private schools, the College Board sells this curriculum product to private schools as well. So we all have to go into these schools and say, can I see what you're teaching our children? But the other big issue that is happening coming this September are these illegal minor children that will be coming into not only Texas classrooms, but Louisiana classrooms, Arizona classrooms. These children are being sent all across the country. As someone who illegal immigration has always been something that you've worked very hard to find solutions against, what is your take on what parents need to be aware of this September as their classroom doors open up for their children?
Well, aside from the safety issue that I think everybody should really be looking into, because especially with the Ebola stuff coming in, and there's just, it really needs to be looking into that. But in Texas alone, we have the largest amount of these children. I think the last number I saw was 4,280 that have been placed in Texas foster homes. So aside from the huge amount of money that we're spending on these children, which we don't really have to spend, I'm just, as we were talking about the education system, I'm wondering, what view of the United States will these children have when they come here with no real knowledge of our history? If they're taught this revisionist history that's now been, that's taken over our schools, they're not going to be very good citizens. When you've got parents like, the Smithermans and you, Alice, and all of our other friends who are patriotic Americans, their children are going to learn and know a lot of the truth, no matter what they're taught in school. But for all of these children that are flooding our shores, and evidently the government is determined to put them in public school, I think that's very dangerous, because then they're also trying to put them in the military. The illegal aliens, they're trying to actually have them gain their citizenship by becoming part of our armed forces. That's dangerous. So, Josh, do you have anything to say? I think I heard you mumbling in the background.
Josh, the producer, he's back there just gritting his teeth, just as angry. What do you think, Josh?
Well, yeah, I said exactly your point. And they're firing our guys to make places for these guys.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's just, a recipe for disaster. It's totally planned. But I think when it comes to our children and sitting in schools next to, we really don't know anything about these children. And I was reading one of Breitbart, our friends at Breitbart I know y'all know, have written some really great articles on all this. And I was looking at what went on in Collin County, that resolution that they passed. And I think it was Judge, I can't remember what his name was, what the judge's.
Keith Sheets, I believe.
Yes. He was saying at the end of it all, he said, self, I guess, SELF.
Right, that's it.
He offered 3 recommendations. One was to close the border to illegal immigration today, not tomorrow, but today. We all know that. And then he said to house the illegals in Texas close to the border, treat them humanely, honorably, and charitably. But then he said, I guess there were several of these charities, liberal, churches or whatever they're testifying. He said also then to return them to their native land ASAP, so that the charitable organizations will support them, because we're now aware of them, can go take care of them. So basically he's saying keep them at the border, then treat them humanely, and then all you guys that think we should be taking care of them, well, now you know what you need to do, and we'll help support you if we believe in what you're doing. So,
Well,
great idea, I think.
I think you're right. And one of another Breitbart article said what's difficult to anticipate is the possible number of children arriving with adult family members.
Yeah.
Remember, only 20% of those coming across the border are minors. 80% are adults.
Right.
He said as they're not tracked after being released from border custody, the children are not categorized as unaccompanied. And if their families reside in Texas, in our school districts, they could be enrolling in public school, which starts August 25th. So this is, once again, you have to look at the strategies and tactics that are being used by the progressives to implement, to get, whether it's Common Core, APUSH, they say it's too late, it's already here. Or whether it's these children who they're saying it's too late, they're already here. You're not humane if you don't take them in. Well, you know what? What about our kids? What about our teachers? What about our administrators? And what about the elderly in our community? If they have to reside in our school district to get into our schools, and they're coming in with diseases and whether it's tuberculosis, whatever, they're infecting our whole community. So I think you're exactly right. We've got to keep them quarantined, close to the border, find out who they are, and treat them humanely, and send them home. Send them home.
Right.
So with that, we are going to close out the show today. We are excited to be with you. Rebecca, hopefully you'll be back up here soon and in studio with us. And we're getting up to speed on this great new technology. And we are going to be using it to spread the word. Do you have any final thoughts, Rebecca?
Yes, I do, as a matter of fact. As I was reading over a lot of this stuff, I was reminded about the 1982 Tyler v. Doe case, the Supreme Court that sort of brought this mess upon us of educating, everybody that's here illegally. And I remember when I brought in Mike Hedman from FAIR to testify, I think it was in 2007. I don't remember for sure. I think it was 2007. He mentioned the fact that needed to be revisited because it says that we have to do this, but then in the opinion it says unless a substantial state interest could be shown to justify that it not be. Well, in 1982, when this ruling came down, there weren't that many illegal aliens in Texas where this originated. There weren't that many, so it wasn't so much of an expense. But now that's very different, and especially now that all of these people are flooding in. So I just think that's something that I think we need to push for, is for that to be revisited, because there is a huge it's taking away from all of our citizens services that they are entitled to. So anyway, that's what I'd like to close out with.
Great.
Well, for the day.
Thank you, Rebecca, and have a wonderful day, and we'll be back next week. Have a great day. Bye-bye.